Hey everybody, my name is Kian Soltani, I'm a cellist. We are here in beautiful Vienna where Nina from Tomastic has invited me to go on a walk with her to answer some of her questions. So please come have a walk with us.
Kian, there are certainly many things that people would love to know about you, but I'm the lucky one. I get to interrogate you today. Let's start with a warm-up question. What made you start playing the cello?
Well, I was born in a musical family, so my father, mother, sister, aunt, cousin, everybody was playing music. So it was clear for me that I also, as soon as I was able to make music somehow, I wanted to join the party in a way. And my older cousin, he's 3 years older, he was a cellist, and I always looked up to him in a way. So when I was old enough, which was 4, I just wanted to play cello as well, just to be like him. And then I fell in love with the instrument and I stayed with it ever since. But the instrument was not so important for me at the beginning. I just really wanted to join my family when they were making music, you know. So it had to be anything, and somehow it happened to be the cello. Of course, now I'm very happy that it is that, but it could have been anything else also.
So it was literally always your passion, or were there moments of doubt?
Well, of course there were some moments of doubt, especially later, like teenage years. Of course, there's some things that other kids did differently, you know, like they were able to play outside on the streets all day long, and I had to sometimes go back into the house to practice for a couple of hours before I was able to join them again. So sometimes I was feeling like, oh, I wish I could actually play outside all day long. Those were still the days where kids would actually still play outside on the streets. I don't know what people do nowadays, but so yeah, those were the moments of doubt where I was like, I wish I could always just play. But of course, you know, discipline is important, especially when you're working on your craft. But very quickly I realized that there is a lot of enjoyment also in practice. There is enjoyment in discipline, and once I discovered that, the moments of doubt, they actually disappeared forever.
So I'm happy to hear though that you're human. That means that sometimes when you had to practice every day, you felt like tossing the cello in the corner and walking away from it.
There were some rare moments that, yes, I did feel like I just don't want to do this anymore, but it was for the wrong reasons. It's not because I didn't love cello. It was because I thought at that moment that you have to choose, that I hadn't found the balance yet. That was the problem. It was that I thought that because I'm playing cello now, because I'm practicing so much, I need to miss out on other things. That was what I thought in that moment. Because I was like, I don't want to miss out anymore. But once you realize that it actually is not necessary to choose, you can, if you plan intelligently, you can actually do all those things. You can practice, you can be disciplined, but you can also have fun. Once I found that balance, those moments of doubt and wanting to stop went away forever, because it's all about finding the right balance in your life. That's of course not easy, and especially as a child I didn't have that. I thought that I'm practicing, so I'm missing out on everything, but that's of course not true. So I now in retrospect I don't feel like I missed out on anything, and many things that I thought I had missed out I was able to do later in my life, or still am doing now. So I'm very happy that I stayed with it. I don't know, like maybe even like simple things like, you know, going out in the evening, going to party with your friends, going to have drinks, going to the park during the day, or spending more time with your friends. There were certainly times when I was a teenager where I was sacrificing that a little bit in order to practice more. But later on I really found the balance on, you know, how to practice efficiently and then have time in the evening for my friends, or even during the day and stuff like that. So many things I did at different times in my life, but in the end I did all of it. I feel like so far I have not missed out on anything, and I hope I can continue like this. Yeah.
Do you remember a moment on stage that you found particularly challenging or even difficult?
Oh yeah, of course. Many moments were challenging on stage. Different kinds of challenges. Let me think. Actually, especially now since we're in Vienna, there is one moment that I remember very well here in Vienna, actually, where that's not so long ago, maybe a year ago, I played what was for me a very important concert, because it was Vienna. I respect the city a lot, of course, and I was born in Austria, so it's a very important thing for me, and family was in the audience and so on. And the very first piece of the concert, and it was, by the way, also recorded with the radio, the very first piece, during the first couple of minutes, something happened to my cello. It was because of the tuning pegs, you know, they're on the top of the cello. Somehow they were not set up properly, so the whole string thing, it went down, the intonation went down completely on the first two strings. And that was, of course, because of the pegs. It had nothing to do with the strings, but I was so like shocked in that moment because the radio was recording and I had to continue. I had no choice. I couldn't like stop playing now. And so I had to just find this strength in me to just continue regardless. And the next opportunity I had then was after this movement was finished, then I retuned my cello, of course. But then for the rest of the concert, I had to find this positivity inside me to not think back like, oh my God, this happened now, how embarrassing, how horrible, but instead think positively. And so this was actually one of the most challenging things. It was not the technical thing, it was the mental thing, to stay positive and to just push through it. The show must go on, basically. And that happens quite regularly in concerts, even when it's small little things here and there, one note here, one little thing that you didn't love so much about your playing, to stay positive, to stay with it and not just get into this negative spiral for the rest of the concert. Those are always the challenges for me, most of the time.
But at the same time, it's also a very big achievement to actually manage to do that. And when you think of other successes of your life, which ones were your personal favorites? The ones that you really kept in your heart and thought, well, maybe I could relive this moment just because it was that amazing?
Well, I mean, there's many very positive moments that I always think back to, so it's difficult to say now. For me, I mean, success, I don't want to now mention competitions or something like that, because I think much more importantly for me were always the moments where I had really practiced a piece a lot, really spent so much effort on a piece, and then finally, by the time of the concert, I was able to really enjoy the concert, because there's certain pieces in the cello repertoire that are so challenging that my fear is always, not fear, but my challenge to myself is to practice them so much and so intensively that when I go on stage, I don't have to worry about it anymore. I can really just enjoy. So I'm always proudest about the moments where I actually managed to do that, where I practiced the piece, which was, for example, a couple of years ago I had to play the Beethoven Triple Concerto. It's for cello very, very challenging, at least for me. And I practiced it so much, like half a year of every day practicing just on this piece. And by the time of the concert, it was a couple of concerts in big halls, and I knew if I'm not prepared enough, I will be worried on stage. I will be nervous, I will not enjoy it. So I practiced it so much that when this tour came, I was just really enjoying it. I was enjoying every moment, every second of being on stage. And for me, that's always the proudest moments afterwards, where I was like, yes, I was really able to enjoy myself on stage, because that's, at the end, that's what it's about.
It sounds like you find inspiration both when you practice and when you're on stage. But what else inspires you? Where else do you find that?
Yes, actually, during practice itself, inspiration is a bit hard. I think for me at least, the biggest inspiration comes from life itself, in a way, and that's something that I had to discover much later, because as a teenager, yet again, I'm talking about my teenage years, it was all about practice, 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 lock yourself in the practice room as many hours a day, and you forget to live somehow. And in the end, if you don't really live, then what are you really talking about when you play the music? Which in the end, I always try to tell a story when I'm on stage, when I'm making music. So inspiration for me comes from life experiences, from other people's stories. Maybe it doesn't always have to be your life, you know. I've had a rather peaceful life, luckily, of course, ups and downs like everybody else, but other people's life stories can also inspire. It can also be movies, books, any kind of story that is, for me, emotionally engaging. That always inspires me the most, stories. And so I think it's important for every artist or musician or anybody to have as many stories for themselves also, and go out there and live your life and make stories for yourself. Gather those stories so that when you go on stage, now you can speak about them in an, of course, abstract way. Mm-hmm. As an instrumentalist, we don't actually speak about them, but somehow there is something in there emotionally that is related to those stories. And so for me, that's always the biggest inspiration in life. And when I'm on stage, I think about scenes, about story bits, of course, very abstract, but it's always related to some kind of story. If it's maybe something from a movie, from a book, from my life, from somebody else's life, and that's what inspires me the most. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite story or a favorite movie, something outside the music?
There's so many amazing stories. Difficult to choose. Favorite movie? That's a good question. Of course, I have many. I'm crazy about movies in general. I have many favorite movies. I would say on the very, very top of the list, I would probably put the Godfather movie, #1 and #2, especially #2, Godfather. Very old movie, but still I think basically unsurpassed. So until now, so definitely Godfather. And otherwise, I really love also very modern blockbusters, Hollywood. I have a very weak point for those kinds of movies as well. So
spill the beans. Which one? Which one was your latest blockbuster that you?
Latest one I just watched a couple of days ago. I was in cinema. I watched Tenet. It's the newest movie from Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
I respect him a lot. He made Interstellar, Inception. What else did he make? The Dark Knight. These kind of movies. I always love his movies. The latest one I watched, very complicated. I didn't quite understand all of it yet, but I'm going again actually this week just so I would understand more about this movie. So I'm crazy about these big kind of blockbusters with really big stories, epic stories. I love epic stories. Basically, that's my thing. Yeah.
So you mentioned
Should we sit
big.
down?
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned big stories, and you mentioned your early years a lot. When you think back to the very beginning of your music making, did you imagine becoming so successful? Was there a master plan behind your music career, or did it just happen naturally?
No, there was definitely no plan. Definitely no plan. When I was very young, as I told you, it was for me just about joining my family to make music. That was just a plan, and I thought that making music is part of everybody's life because I had not seen anything else. I saw my parents make music, my sister, my aunt, so I thought everybody makes music, and so I just joined. And much later only I realized that there's people who don't make music. You know, when I grew up a little bit, a couple of years later, I realized that it's not part of everybody's life. But at that point, it was already too late for me. I had already fallen. Yeah, had already fallen in love with it, and it was no question for me that music would always be part of my life. To which degree wasn't clear. I didn't know that music is something that you have to do professionally or can even do professionally. I thought really this is just something that is part of somebody's life. So I feel extremely privileged that I was able to do this now, or I am able to do this now professionally. It's really, for me, unbelievable. Sometimes I wake up, I get to do the thing that I love the most professionally. And even if I wouldn't be doing it professionally, I would still be doing it. I would be doing it every day. So it was not my plan at all. It just happened very, very luckily. The deeper I went into the music, the more I realized this is something I just need to do every day. And luckily there were the right opportunities at the right time, and I am where I am now. But there was never a big plan. The plan was just always to make music as intensely and as deeply as possible, and I'm still trying to do that. And luckily there is people who want to hear that, so I'm very, very happy about that.
So with this great talent of yours and the success comes a lot of pressure, I assume. How do you cope with that?
I personally don't really feel pressure. I very rarely feel any pressure because I am doing the thing that I love the most. This is what I want to do. This is just what I do. This is my thing, right? And most of the times, almost always, nobody asks anything else of me. Like if you would now ask me go on stage and sing something, then I would feel the pressure because I'm not very good at singing, and like what do they want from me? There's pressure. But you ask me to go on stage and play cello, it's like, yeah, well, this is what I do. Of course I want to, like I'm asking for it. So I don't really feel pressure because I don't need to change myself in any way, or I need to like adapt myself or bend over backwards to this is anyway what I want to do. So there is no real pressure. My job is to go on stage and tell a story, or not my job, my mission I see in life. And as long as this is the thing I'm doing, there is no pressure for me. Mm-hmm. Of course, one day I will, or not one day, already now, there's sometimes where you're stepping out of your comfort zone, you're doing something new, you're doing something crazy. But as long as it's related to the thing you love, which is for me, again, telling a story through music, I almost never feel the pressure because this is just what I do. And now if somebody doesn't want to hear it anymore, or doesn't want to invite me anymore, that's fine, that's their choice. But as long as they do, I assume that what I'm doing is more or less okay.
Yeah.
What I'm doing is not so wrong. So I will continue to do it and just continue to be myself.
If you had to stop making music tomorrow altogether, what would you do instead?
I would do something with movies, definitely, because I'm so crazy about movies. I would either become a director, maybe, somehow filmmaker, actor maybe. I would like to maybe be an actor. Something with movies I would love to do. Something with dance I also like very much, but this is again related to music. But movies are also related to music. Everything is related to music in a way. But if I was not able to play an instrument, maybe an actor, something with a movie or dancer, like I said.
So we were talking about favorites a lot, like favorites movies, favorite spare times. Do you have a favorite stage that you love performing on?
Well, here in Vienna, of course, there's one very famous one I have to name, which is Musikverein Wien,
Yeah.
of course. That the Golden Hall is quite special always to be on that stage. Another special one would be in my hometown in Vorarlberg, which is at the other end of Austria. There's a beautiful chamber hall, Markus Sittikus Saal, where a festival happens called Schubertiade. And I kind of almost grew up in this hall because in the beginning I would always go listen to concerts as a teenager. I would go listen to the great artists play. Later I started to work there as a page turner because I wanted to be closer to the great musicians. I started to turn their pages. And then even later I was invited to start playing there. Now I play there every year, at least once or twice. And it's in my hometown, or at least it's the village next to my hometown. So it's really, I feel so home there, and that one's really maybe my favorite because so many emotions connected to that place.
Memories, a lot of good memories.
Yeah, my family always comes to the concert, of course, and some childhood friends and so on. So it's a very special stage for me.
And the favorite orchestra? Do you have a favorite orchestra? Or is that a mean question to
No,
ask?
I mean, there's many great orchestras. Of course, again, I mean, this is coincidence that we're in Vienna, but Vienna, has many great things. Of course, Vienna Philharmonic is one of my favorite orchestras, and I had the privilege to play with them, which is unbelievable for me that I was able to do that. I played the Dvorak Cello Concerto with them, and that was so special. So Vienna Philharmonic, if not them, then I would also have to name, of course, another favorite orchestra of mine, which is the Berlin Philharmonic. So those two are certainly two of my favorite orchestras, but there's many great ones. I don't want to rate it too much, but those two I have a strong emotional bond with, in a way.
Without rating it too much, do you happen to have a favorite string maker? Maybe, I don't know. I mean, talking about saddle product placements.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, we're here because I love Thomastik, Infield, Vienna, and because I play them and because I've been playing them now since a while and I will continue to play them. They're just amazing strings. They're fantastic strings. And what I love also about the work that we're doing is every time I'm here, or at least many times when I'm here in Vienna, I get to visit there and we get to spend time together there just exploring the newest strings they have, the new setups, the new things that they're working on, and the guys there are so professional and so experienced also. Most of them have some sort of past or even present with strings themselves. They're string players, so they really know what they're talking about. They really know what it is they're looking for. So these hours we have spent searching for the perfect setup, those are amazing hours that we've spent, and I'm always loving that, and it's special to find such a partner that you can do this with, and that they're so engaged in this process just as you, because it is an important aspect of your instrument, what strings you play. So you should spend enough time researching that. So it's fantastic. I'm so happy to be part of this family.
Oh, we love having you part of the family. So you travel a lot back and forth. You mentioned going in and out of Vienna a lot. Do you have any really fun travel stories that cross your mind?
Oh, okay. Yeah, of course, plenty. First of all, the city which I have the biggest trouble with the traveling is London, because I think there are 5 airports. If I'm not wrong, maybe there is 4, maybe it's 5, something like that. In any case, it's too many airports for one city. And of course, I cannot even count anymore how many times I've gone to the wrong airport in London and just missed my flight. It's embarrassingly too many times. But even more so than that, once there was a string of unfortunate events in London that happened that made me forever fear that city and its airports. It was that I was on tour with a group actually, and just the evening before we were going to the airport, somebody stole my jacket from the hotel lobby somehow. And it was a very expensive, very precious jacket to me, but they stole it, whatever. What can I do? And then the next morning, my alarm didn't go off, so I overslept. And I woke up and everybody had already left to the airport. So I had to now quickly take a taxi somehow and rush after them to still catch the plane. And I arrived to the airport and nobody is there. Now, you guessed it probably already, I went to the wrong airport, of course. So I had to take another taxi from that airport to, and the distances between two airports in London is of course huge. So I went to this other airport, I finally arrived, it was the correct airport. I ran to the check-in to quickly check in. I was looking for my passport and I realized that I don't have my passport because it was in the jacket that was stolen the day before. So I didn't have a passport because the jacket was stolen. I had arrived too late, but I was still sort of on time, almost. Luckily, I had a identity card, ID, and Britain was still part of the European Union back then. I don't even know what the status is right now, but nobody knows. But I was able to fly in the end, and the funny thing is nobody noticed from the group. Or sad actually, it was even more sad than funny. Nobody noticed that I wasn't there the whole time. They were like, "Hey Kian, did you get a coffee somewhere?" I was like, "No, I didn't get a coffee, I just almost missed everything." So that's one funny story.
That's a good one.
And but there's of course many. There's one funny story that just happened quite recently actually. It happened during this whole corona pandemic quarantine thing. It was that of course for a long time, like everybody else, I wasn't able to play concerts. But then the first concert that I was able to play again with very strict regulations and everything was in Germany. So I flew from, I don't remember where I flew. I flew to Berlin, yes. And I landed and there was a sign with my name on it, as it is actually usual when you go to play with an orchestra. They come pick you up at the airport, right? So it said Kian Soltani on the sign, and I was like, well, that's my driver then, right? And so I go there, we get in the car, and he starts driving. And after like 3-4 minutes, the phone rings of the driver, and he picks up, and he's like, so who is there? And I don't hear what the other person says, but apparently this person is looking for a driver, right? And the guy's like, yeah, but what? You were in the car, right? And the guy's like, no, you didn't pick me up, and blah, blah. So there's like some discussion, and the driver turns around and asks me, so what's your name? I said, well, I'm Kian Soltani. And he says, well, there's a guy here who claims that he is Kian Soltani. And he's like, no, I'm Kian Soltani. And he said, well, this guy says he is Kian Soltani. Turns out, and this is crazy, I've never met another Kian Soltani in my life, but on the exact same flight, there was a guy whose name was Kian Soltani who landed that day in Berlin and was waiting for a driver that he had ordered. It was not my car actually at all. So we drove back and I met the guy.
No way.
He's some eye doctor whose name is Kian Soltani. And we met, and the funny thing is I had actually I knew about his existence because of course everybody Googles his own name once in a while. And I had done that, and I always saw that there is actually an eye doctor whose name is Kian Soltani, but I had never met him. So this was the first time we met, was at the airport. I had mistakenly taken his car. So then at the end we ended up sharing the car together, and it drove first to my place and then it drove to his place. So that's how I met the other Kian Soltani, by complete coincidence, actually unbelievable. And also keep in mind that this was during the Corona thing where almost nobody was flying anyway. So the odds that there was 2 Kian Soltanis in this flight, which was a very rare flight anyway, was really crazy. So this, I don't know how that could have ever happened.
Like you say, it's an unbelievable coincidence.
It is quite unbelievable.
So your life obviously involves a lot of traveling. Are there 3 things that you always bring with you when you travel?
I always take a hotel mute. I don't know if you know what that is, but you can put that on the cello bridge. That really dampens the sound. That is, of course, to not disturb anybody in the hotel room next to me, because I know from experience, if you practice without that, people very quickly start complaining. No matter how beautiful you're trying to play, nobody cares because they want to sleep. So this hotel mute always there, because then you can just practice without worrying about the neighbors. What I always take with me also, my headphones, so I can watch movies, which I do always during the flights. So maybe that would be the third thing would of course be a tablet to watch movies on, but that's let's say that belongs together, the headphone and the tablet. and then of course the cello. I would have to say, what else? Cello and bow, although I have forgotten the bow a couple of times already. That is a horrible thing also. If you leave the bow somewhere, you go to the concert and you open the case and there is no bow.
What do you do?
Well, actually, I'm making it sound more dramatic than it actually is, because I always have an extra bow in the case anyway.
Yeah.
So I open the case and my main bow is in there, and then I have to play the concert with the extra bow, with the secondary bow, which is also fine, I guess, but still it's unusual then in that moment. Or when I'm lucky, this happened once in my hometown when this happened, and then I just asked my father to just quickly drive back home, get the bow for me and come back, and then he arrived 5 minutes before the concert, and I was still able to play on my own bow. But I have unfortunately forgotten a few things already on the way to the concert hall. Also music, even though I almost play always by heart, but when I do play chamber music with music, then I forget the music, of course. So yeah, I have forgotten quite a few things, unfortunately, already.
Well, at least you never forgot your cello, I assume.
So far, I have never forgotten my cello. I know horror stories of people leaving their instrument in the taxi, in the Uber or whatever, and then getting out, and I've heard about that, but that has luckily never happened to me. With the cello, no, because it's always next to me. Actually, I never leave it out of my eyes anyway, so it would be very difficult for me to forget the cello. If I ever travel without the cello, which is very rare, I always feel like I'm missing something. I feel like I forgot it somewhere.
It's like a part of your body already.
Yeah, in a way it is. I always look over my shoulder. Where's my cello? Oh, it's at home. It's fine. I don't need it today. So yeah, cello. This is the one thing I never forget. Yes.
And you received a really beautiful and famous Stradivari cello, I learned. What other instruments have you been playing throughout your career?
Yeah, I actually, over the last couple of years, I switched around a lot with instruments, because it's a thing with string players. There's always this search for instruments because they're getting so expensive these days. You can almost not afford your own instrument anymore, so you're relying on foundations and people who are generous to give you these instruments. So over the last few years, I've been switching so much, looking for the right instrument, and also an instrument that is not only right, but that you know that you can keep for a longer time, because there's no point for me to play an instrument for a couple of months and then know that you have to give it back. So to find the right instrument that you can keep for a long time, that's a difficulty here. So I spent a lot of time in the last few years, and now finally, yes, as you said, I'm able to play a Stradivari cello, which is of course an extreme rare privilege that I can do that, and I'm so happy with this. And I hope I can continue for many years.
Is the name of the cello important to you, or is it literally just the sound that it gives you?
It's a good question. It's of course the question is if it's maybe a bit placebo, right? If you know it's a Stradivari cello and then you think it sounds special, but that for me it's hard to believe for me, because I really feel there is a special sound in the Stradivari cellos. I'm not saying that it's the only thing that is possible. Of course, there's great other great cellos, Guarneri, Amati, and so on, and there's great modern cellos as well. I'm not saying that you have to play Stradivari. Of course, not everybody can. If I wouldn't be able to play a Stradivari, if I would have to play a modern cello, I would be happy with that too. There's great modern cellos, there's great old cellos, everything great. I just have the privilege to play a Stradivari cello, and I'm just, of course, saying yes to that opportunity to play on such a valuable, amazing thing. And the name, to be honest with you, is not so important for me. It's really about the sound, and I just love this sound very much. But of course, there's great other cellos as well. That's for sure.
Speaking of sound, you have a strikingly beautiful sound and a very intense vibrato. And I hear that a lot of musicians envy you for exactly that. Is there a secret to this? Is there a particular trick that you'd like to share?
Unfortunately, there is almost no tricks whatsoever when it comes to cello playing, at least in my experience. A trick doesn't exist, and a secret doesn't exist either. The thing is just you need to spend every day of your life working on it and continuing to improve it. And vibrato, just as you mentioned, is actually something that I felt I was very weak at as a teenager. It was one of my weak points. So I actually made it a goal of mine to work on it every day. So it's been now already, I don't know how many years, more than 10 years, 11, 12, where actually vibrato I've been working on every day of my life. I don't think there is a day where I don't think about it, focus on it, do something with it. Every day I practice, I think about vibrato. Because it was a weak point, I try to make it a strength of mine. I'm not saying that it is a strength of mine, but I'm trying to, and I certainly make it a very special focus in my practice, that to work on it every day, find different ways to vibrate. So unfortunately I have no tricks for you, and everybody's vibrato is different, as it should be. The only way is to work on it every day and find the one that you like and continue to work on it and not get comfortable with it. Like, okay, I found my vibrato, that's it. I love to work on it every day, and I think that's the only way to really improve it and to keep it ever changing, as I think vibrato should be. It should always serve the music in a way. It should not be something mechanical and automatic, but it should be something that is a form of expression, which of course it is.
So practice and leave your comfort zone regularly, and that's the one tip that you could actually.
Yes, absolutely, and it has changed also, I would say, over the years a lot, my vibrato. It's not the same like it was 5 years ago, and I think in 5 years it will be different again. It's such a beautiful personal thing, this vibrato thing, and you can many times recognize a cellist or any string instrument player, especially with their vibrato. That's most of the times how you recognize them. So I can tell many cellists are already these days blindly from their vibrato, and so it's a very personal thing, and I think it will change constantly. For me at least, it changes constantly.
On a completely different topic, if you got the chance to meet any person from any time, any place, whether that person was alive or not even born yet, who would you like to spend an evening with?
Wow, that's such a difficult question. There's many people, of course, that come to mind, many great musicians. I think maybe, this is just now a spontaneous answer, maybe tomorrow you ask me somebody else, but right now I would maybe say Leonard Bernstein. If I could have a dinner with Leonard Bernstein, I think that would be extremely fun and just insightful. This guy was everything I think a musician can be or should be or try to be. He was just an amazing, obviously pianist, conductor, but also composer, amazing composer, conductor and educator. He just knew how to speak about music, and improviser also. He could do anything. So just to spend an evening with him to speak about his approach and how he got to where he is, and maybe just listen to him improvise on the piano or just speak about the piece that he loves. I think that would be extremely fascinating. He was a really impressive figure of music, and I respect him a lot for everything that he was doing.
If you were able to go on a walk with him like I was able to go on a walk with you today, what would you ask him? One question that you really would be keen to know about.
Wow, that's a difficult question. I would actually play him some electronic music from today. I feel like, I don't know exactly the year of when he passed away, but I think there's lots of new music now that he hasn't heard. And I would play him something maybe and ask him, what do you think about that actually? Or maybe he would actually be interested in experimenting with that as well. Maybe he would have done some electronic music himself or something. I feel like he would be able to do any genre anyway. So I would ask him, what do you feel about music of today?
What he is to you, you might actually already be to other young artists. Is there advice that you could give somebody who is just at the beginning of their career?
For me, what was really eye-opening to discover on this journey in a way, that people always speak about career, how do I make a career, how do I make that? But in the end, it was not so much the career aspect that actually made me now be able to play with these orchestras and so on. What really helped me forward was the support of other people constantly. I didn't do this on my own, definitely, and I would have not been able to do it. I don't think anybody would have really been able to do this, or anything in their life completely alone. You're always relying on somebody's help and support. And it's been very often in a way that people that I try to help, also in a way, then in the end it came back to me in a way. So what I'm trying to say is, like, the more you kind of embrace others and try to support them instead of pushing them away with an elbow, like, no, I want to do the career and so on, the more they will actually feel like supporting you. And in the end, they will invite you to something, they will present you somewhere or give you an opportunity somewhere because they feel that you would do the same for them. It's really about supporting each other, especially in this music world. We're all in this kind of together. And it's not me against you. It's really about supporting each other, like I said. And the more you help them, the more they will help you. And Also, another thing is very important is not to be afraid to ask for help. Also, everybody always wants to do it themselves and it's almost too proud to ask for help. And it's surprising to me how much people actually want to help you if you just ask for it. Most people don't help you because they don't know you want help, or even it's not about help because you're poor or something. It's just a little inspiration, a little support, a little guidance. A little guidance goes a long way. So don't be afraid to ask for guidance. Many people will not have time for it, but there will be some people that will have the time for it, and they're just waiting for people to ask them. So just do it. Ask for what you want. Ask for what you want. Many times you'll get a no, but at the right times you will get a yes. It's worth it to ask.
So for the end of our interview, I've prepared some speed round questions. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Sweet or salty?
Sweet.
Cats or dogs?
Definitely dogs.
PlayStation or Xbox?
PlayStation.
Theater or cinema?
Unfortunately, I have to admit cinema.
Thriller or romance?
Thriller.
Early riser or night owl?
Night owl.
Brahms or Mozart?
Oh, that's a bit mean. But I have to say Brahms.
Mountains or ocean?
Well, I grew up around mountains, so mountains.
Apfelstrudel or Schwarzwälder Kirsch?
Schwarzwälder Kirsch.
And what goes with it is coffee or tea?
For me, lots of coffee.
All right, well, I think that's my cue. We should definitely grab a cup of coffee now.
Good idea.
It was fantastic having you. Thanks so much for taking a walk with me today.
Thanks for the invitation.
Well, let's go have some coffee.